Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Dynamics 365 Tech Talk. Today's topic is Finance and Operations Monitoring and Telemetry using Application Insights. My name is David, and I'll be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this session through Teams live events, and the audio can be heard through your device speakers. This session is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. When you join this event, your name, email address, and/or phone number may be viewable by other session participants in the attendee list. By joining, you're agreeing to this experience. The recording will be available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within the coming weeks. If you have questions for the presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right side of your screen. Our presenters will be responding to your questions during the session and in a live Q&A at the end of the presentation. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. Presenting for us today, we have from Microsoft, Kenny Saelen, Senior R&D Solution Architect, Lane Swenka, Senior Program Manager, and answering your questions in the Q&A, Aman Nain, Senior R&D Solution Architect. Kenny, over to you.
Thank you. So have a good day to everyone, and happy to have you here in our Tech Talk on monitoring and telemetry using application insights. So today, our agenda looks like the following. So we would like to discuss at least some of the current challenges we see today, and then let's quickly step over to what are the new capabilities this feature will bring in and provide you with a demo of the feature. After that, let's dive into some patterns, anti-patterns, scenarios which you can use it for, and talk a bit about extensibility and how you can write some of your own telemetry. So with that, let's deep dive into some of the current challenges we see today, and I'll gladly hand this over to Lane.
Great, thanks so much, Kenny. Hello, everyone. Good morning from Seattle. Again, just wanted to thank you for being with us. Talking about some of the current challenges with finance and operations monitoring, we should probably start with the lack thereof, right? And I think this whole feature and this Tech Talk can serve as an acknowledgement from Microsoft to say we see that the gap has been there. Primarily, customers, have been needing to get insight into their ERP environment, especially as we've taken this AX system from on-premise, put it into the cloud, evolved it into the finance and operations suite of apps that it is today. We need rich insight into who's using the application, how it's being used, where we're seeing failures. And because of that gap, what we've seen is customers and partners are building some custom logging capabilities. And more often than not, we're seeing that as just logging a whole bunch of data into your own database, into the live production system. And unfortunately, that does cause a lot of storage bloat and performance problems of its own. And even has other implications as you're trying to copy your environments from, say, production to your sandbox, or even all the way down to a developer. Because we're seeing some of these custom tables are so large, that's causing other types of issues as well. And last but certainly not least, we hear from customers, we need proactivity. We need to be able to have smart detection. We need to build alert rules on certain conditions. They could be conditions that you can auto heal or self-mitigate, right? And so you can just, as soon as you see something is occurring, you can go solve the issue or put out the fire, so to speak. Or if it is a type of issue that's coming from the base product or some kind of an infrastructure problem, you can be proactive about reaching out to Microsoft, right? Even as we have our own detection frameworks. So these are some of the current challenges. And we're looking to solve that with this new feature called monitoring and telemetry, which is leveraging application insights. So if we move to the next slide, let's talk about what is Azure Application Insights. Well, it's a feature from the Azure portfolio of capabilities. It's actually an extension to a base capability called Azure Monitor. And Azure Application Insights is primarily designed for web app monitoring. So if you're building web applications, MVC type apps, .NET programs, you can actually very easily integrate with App Insights. It's just an SDK and a NuGet package that you can add to your solution. And essentially, it gives you a whole bunch of capabilities almost for free or automatic. It monitors which pages are being viewed, where your exceptions are coming from, if you have dependency type errors from database, availability. You can have availability testing overall just to see what's the health of your environment from different geographies around the globe. You can build smart detection and rules so that you either get a text message or an email, or you can create a ticket in your own help desk ticket system. There's integrations with source control and release pipelines from Azure DevOps or GitHub Actions, so that when you're doing a release of new capabilities of your own code, you can actually mark those as a point in time in App Insight so that you can see, okay, is that actually making my system healthier? Or is now that I've deployed my recent customizations, the system is less healthy, right? So that can give you some insight in and of itself. Certainly usage and dashboards as well. So that's just what is Azure Application Insights. As we move forward to the next slide, we'll start to take a look at where does this fit into the overall paradigm of finance and operations. Where does this fit into the life cycle? And we really do see it as kind of an integral part of how you do things. So certainly we know 99% of all customers are customizing their F&O system to make it tailored to them. And so as you're deploying apps or deploying customizations, enabling new features, adding ISV solutions, you want to monitor and see how those are doing. You want to be able to see and know quantitatively that the environment is healthy, that the rate of failures are declining or staying around zero. And seeing just what is the health of the system. And based on seeing any kind of anomalies or errors or any kind of issues, you can then bring that back into the development cycle. But it's not just for solving problems as well. We even see customers needing this kind of data for assigning priority to their development efforts as well. And so if you're being asked by your own stakeholders to build 3 different customizations, you can very clearly see one area of the system has low utilization, like maybe only 2 people visit this form. Well, then why spend time right now on customizing that when you can customize and enhance a form that has hundreds of people visiting in a day, right? And so you can actually get usage statistics about different areas of your F&O system and use that to fuel your prioritization in your development, of course, which feeds back into the whole life cycle here. So we really do see this as an integral part. So if we move to the next slide, let's take a quick look at what does this specifically bring with public preview for F&O. Certainly the first is bug fixes from the private preview for F&O. So we had some performance impacts and things like that that we've since mitigated. And so things are looking really nice compared to the private preview. So thanks for those who participated with us. What it comes with out of the box is several basic capabilities in terms of monitoring page views, form loads essentially, and several different X++ wrappers to basically look at your exceptions, where errors happening in the system, whether they're error by design or unexpected type errors. And you can also have custom events and metrics, which we'll discuss later. In addition to that, you can certainly create dashboards and use all of the different capabilities that is Azure App Insights once you have the telemetry data stored there, such as setting up alerts and creating custom queries and using the logging capabilities. And so with that, let's move forward to see what is not in this public preview. So this is not, what is this feature not? It is not really designed to be SQL performance or a performance monitor. This is not going to give you insight into the CPU, the RAM, the DTU of the SQL Server, blocking statements necessarily. These are not really the duty of the X++ platform runtime and how we've integrated App Insights to it. In addition, this is certainly not a verbose database logging tool, so we don't want you using it or trying to extend it so that it's logging a bunch of data into the database or knowing exactly all the different fields that were updated on every single record at all times. Like, this is not used for audit. In addition to that, and I think this is a common question we've heard, is this replacing LCS? Is this replacing LCS monitoring? The answer is no. They are 2 parallel features. They have 2 parallel sets of capabilities. I think they're complementary, right? Because one is more looking holistically at the environment, the infrastructure, kind of the platform, and one is more application monitoring, usage, statistics, more insight into the application itself versus the hosting environment. So we think they're complementary and not a replacement. If we can move forward to the next slide, another common question that we've gotten we wanted to touch on here in the Tech Talk is, well, hey, what about these other things? What about operational insights, that came with the commerce capabilities? That actually came out first, and originally this whole feature was going to be called operational insights. What about the SCM monitoring capabilities? We've seen some blog posts about how to integrate with the warehouse app and so forth. What about all these other things? So if we step back, what did partners and customers do because a capability didn't exist from Microsoft? Well, you started customizing, you started building your own database logging capabilities and your own telemetry monitoring systems. Same thing happened with first party here at Microsoft. We actually saw application teams, because of the lack of a platform feature, starting to meet customer needs where they were, right? So commerce team built operational insights, the warehousing and supply chain teams built some things for the warehouse app integration, and they're all doing a similar thing in different ways. And obviously that's just going to get expensive for everyone involved. And so now that we have this platform feature, monitoring and telemetry, this is the base, and we're now reconverging, recollapsing everything back into this, since this is the go forward strategy. And because this is here now, all future app team investments will continue to expand on top of this. And you'll already start to see we have native integrations now for some warehouse events that are coming in, a couple of platform updates. And so you'll just see monitoring and telemetry continue to grow. Operational insights and these other capabilities that you've seen blogged about, they're actually being folded into this one feature as we speak. So hopefully that helps kind of clear that up. With that, I think we can move forward to the next slide. This is the last one before the demo, so I will try to go quickly, but I think also some of us are learners by seeing, and so looking at this hopefully helps kind of convey where is monitoring and telemetry fitting into the stack, both for F&O platform as well as Power Platform, as well as just the Azure and Microsoft platform. And so as we look at F&O, there's the application capabilities, finance, supply chain, commerce, ProJobs, HR. Those are all sitting on top of the X++ platform, right? And so we built monitoring and telemetry in the platform layer so that applications and platform telemetry can flow in a certain way directly to App Insights. And so this is an integration between your environment directly into App Insight. In addition, like I mentioned before, there are other capabilities built directly on .NET, like the Warehouse mobile application. Operational Insights, I think, has the CSU, or the cloud runtime. And those are using a hook back into F&O to get the connection string to App Insights, and then they're sending directly to your App Insight destination. And you'll see more telemetry, more properties are populated because it's flowing through the .NET runtime than you may see from the X++ platform runtime. And likewise, Dataverse and Power Platform are also using App Insights. Again, they come from a slightly separate platform, and so they have slightly different properties that are populated. But again, all of these things converge into App Insights, and so you can choose to put all of it in one place or have dedicated App Insights for different workloads, and we'll have documentation to kind of show you the pros and cons of how to do that. But I think hopefully this was a good conceptual diagram. With that, I believe the next slide is jumping into what are the new capabilities in demo. So with that, I will go on mute and we can take a quick look at the video. In this demonstration, we're going to review the new monitoring capabilities in finance and operations applications. To start, we'll take a look at this new sandbox that I've recently deployed. And because this feature is a preview feature, we'll first enable this via the feature management workspace. And by navigating here, first we'll look up the monitoring and telemetry feature. And you'll see that I've already enabled this feature. However, if you have not, you may do so now. And by enabling monitoring and telemetry, you may also read the documentation by clicking the Learn More link. And then from there, in the System Administration module, a new capability is enabled underneath the Setup section called Monitoring and Telemetry Parameters. To configure monitoring and telemetry with Application Insights, you must first enable a couple of different things. Notably, these are the various different types of telemetry you wish to capture, and so you can turn these on and off as you see fit. Within each, you will see both the F&O terminology, i.e. form runs, and in parentheses, you will see the application insight terminology for that same activity, such as page views. And so by looking at this mapping of telemetry types, you will not only understand what type of telemetry you're capturing from the system, but where you'll go find that in the application insight resource that you deploy. From there, we also enable a multi-environment setup so that as you copy databases between sandbox and production or production to sandbox, you do not inadvertently send telemetry where you don't wish to. And so from here, you'll see that I've already set up one environment here and I've designated it as a testing type environment. We have just 3 high-level categories. These do not automatically come from the environment type or anything from LCS, but it's just a way in which you can identify this environment as a test type environment, a developer type environment, or it's used for production workload. The environment ID I've taken from my environment details page here in Lifecycle Services. So you can see I've copied this value here. Once you have environments set up here, you then can point different environment types, such as a test environment, to what's called an instrumentation key. The instrumentation key comes directly from App Insights within the Azure portal, and this is to be treated just like a password or a secret. Anyone who has the instrumentation key can send telemetry to that target. Doesn't mean that they can read the telemetry that's already captured there, but they could potentially flood your monitoring system with needless telemetry or inadvertently send developer telemetry to a production endpoint, right? So you do want to be careful with this key. However, this is taken from the Azure portal. So let's go to the Azure tab here. And you can see I have a dashboard and we'll get back to how to set those up. But first I'll click into my App Insights resource. And the instrumentation key can be copied from the Overview tab. And so once you have all of these components at a minimum turned on and hit save, you then can browse back to the home page and start to use the system as you normally would. Your users are not going to notice any kind of performance hit because, again, this is all asynchronously being captured. And another important point to note is that the telemetry generated from this feature does not go back to Microsoft, at least the Dynamics team. This is a direct integration between your environment and your own App Insights. Our team is not in the middle, and so this is purely your data, your telemetry, and is not going through our support systems. So from here, let's just start kind of browsing around so I can go to different pages. And as I'm going about my daily work as the admin, or if I'm just a business user, my activities are being captured by this new feature. Let's say I do something maybe I shouldn't, like going to main accounts, and I've always wanted to try deleting this account, so I'm going to try deleting it. But of course, as you know, once something has a transaction on it, it cannot be deleted. So I get an error message here. A financial dimension value has been used, therefore you can't delete this main account. And so let's go see if we can find some of this in App Insights. So how do you start to traverse the telemetry that's captured? The easiest way, in my opinion, is to go to the transaction search tab and just look at all the telemetry in the last 24 hours. This will show you I've got 18 page views, some availability events, several exceptions, and nothing custom at the moment. So let's see if we can find, let's type in financial. Aha. I can see a financial dimension value based on this account cannot be deleted. And I can actually open up the message here and see the full X++ stack trace. So in case I think this is a customization or an ISV solution that's maybe having some issues, or it's just out of the box type bug, maybe I don't expect to see this, I can actually look at the code that's running or share this with a developer and they can parse it and see if there's anything surprising going on there. In addition to the X++ stack trace and the exceptional message, we do have other properties that are captured here standard, such as the session ID, the user ID in plain text. So it's very clear to see, okay, this was the admin, or this was, you know, John Doe, Jane Doe, and so forth. We are not capturing the client's IP address at this time. We can see that this is a service fabric type environment, which means it's running in sandbox or production. And in addition to that, I can see a couple custom properties such as the legal entity ID and if this was interactive or coming from a batch job. If I want to go look at other types of exceptions, I could actually just go to the failures tab if that's all I'm interested in. And I can click into the system exceptions here as all X++ exceptions are captured as system exceptions. And so I can see that there's some different errors going on here. Unable to construct an object from a class. That sounds highly technical and scary. So I'll look at all the different properties here and I can see, in fact, this is coming from a batch and not only batch, but this particular batch job ID. So I can go find that job, see what it's supposed to be doing, and maybe stop it if I think it's just not working properly. In addition, because App Insights is part of the Microsoft Cloud and ecosystem, there is a nice round trip integration back to your bug logging tool of choice, whether that's Azure DevOps or GitHub. And so from here, we can actually create a bug for this back into our work item and tracking tool. In this case, I'm pulling up my personal Azure DevOps, but you can see it actually stores all of the error message, the class and so forth, the timestamp, and a deep link back to more details in App Insights. And so again, as the admin, if I look at something, I'm like, hey, this looks maybe customization related, I'm going to kick it back to my engineering team. You can just go do so and keep track of it here. With that, of course, there are a bunch of other features that App Insights has, like performance metrics, logging CPU and RAM and so forth. Those are not included in the current capabilities today. And then, of course, we would always point you to the App Insights documentation because there's a whole host of other features that are standard here, like setting up alerts and availability, having workbooks so that you can run basic queries and have like custom dashboards. And you can also control the costs. And so if for the developers, say you have 20 different developer VMs all pointed to a dev App Insights, let's just say you want to cap that at 1 GB a day of telemetry. And once it hits that, somebody writes a job that's just flooding it with error messages, you can put a cap on that cost. Likewise with production, you can also cap that, or you can choose not to cap that. It's all very much up to you. And you can keep track of the work items that you've created if you chose to do so. And so from there, by going back to the overview and clicking this application dashboard button, it actually does create a very similar dashboard to this. I kind of move things around and just to get it on to the screen with my smaller screen that I have here today. But essentially that is how quickly you can get up and running with this feature. So thank you very much. And that concludes our brief demo today. In this demo, great. And with that, there's just a couple of slides. We'll kind of breeze through some of these, but we didn't touch on availability testing. You can set up a typical ping test here with the public URL of your environment and essentially add different geographies to test the availability of your environment. It doesn't necessarily mean the environment is working properly, but it does mean it's online and responding, right? So you can at least do this basic test from all the different geos in the world in which you operate. This can give you some insight into just general availability of your instance. We can move to the next slide. Along with that, you can set up alerts, and there are a lot of custom things you can do with alerts. It can be as simple as just raising an alert in the Azure portal to sending out SMS text messages to emails to generating tickets to firing off logic apps or Power Automate flows. And so if you have any kind of self-healing type things, you can actually use alerts to generate those and kick those off, or at minimum just alert you to an issue. And you can track those over time, whether they're still an ongoing alert or if they've been auto mitigated. And you can see those go to fired versus resolved here as well. And with that, I will hand it over to Kenny to talk patterns, scenarios, and extensibility. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lane. Thank you for the nice demo. And let's move on with some of the patterns, anti-patterns, and then scenarios and extensibility. So let's start with some patterns and anti-patterns. So like our guidance is to follow these kind of patterns in terms of flow. The first one is design for insights into your business process performance, right? So The main goal of application insights should be for you as a company to understand, okay, get insights into how is my business flowing today, right? So it should contribute to providing insights into end-to-end process flows mainly. Things like how many invoices are we processing on average during a certain time frame? Do we process more or less invoices than we typically do? Getting some end-to-end timings. I can imagine people are waiting to know, okay, well, what's the lead time from creating a sales order to actually invoicing it, right? And through navigating of different parts of the telemetry, you might find some useful insights into your processes, and that might eventually lead into, okay, maybe we should redesign some of the processes that we're using today because we are not hitting kind of the throughput that we would like to get as we are growing, right? So always design to get process insights, right? Replace any custom logging in your application. So as Nain already mentioned in the beginning, we often see, and that was due to the lack of some of the insights from our product, that people are building still solutions that are keeping a lot of logging data into their own custom tables. And it also contributes to the overall storage consumption, right? A lot of unnecessary weight on the database is also included then. So this would be an ideal use case for monitoring and telemetry feature to also send this data to application insights. And then we'll talk in a bit in a few slides about how you can actually also write your own custom telemetry on top of what is coming out of the box. A third pattern is also designed for cost efficiency. So when you start using application insights and you're just feeding data into it and you don't really think about if you're having a heavy batch workload, for example, with a lot of looping in there and you're really processing a lot and just firing off anything you can capture towards application insights, you might be a bit surprised in the end what the invoice would then bring. So there are different options, which we are also going to cover in the next slides, how you can keep this cost in check, but definitely design for cost efficiency. And one example of that is, for example, if you always would log the startup time of a form, for example. You want to know kind of how quickly does my form open, or what's the average time of the first interaction when a form is opened. If you log that with each form opening, you might be collecting a lot of telemetry. An alternative approach that is more cost efficient would be using the metrics system. So instead of logging an event, you can use a metric, and then you can fetch a metric from application insights, and then you can calculate whatever you need to calculate and just update the metric, which would do that in an aggregated way instead of logging each instance of a logging. So that definitely contributes to cost efficiency. More in a few slides. Then also let's talk about some of the anti-patterns. Nain mentioned in one of the first slides, do not use application insights for purely infrastructure monitoring. Reason is the X++ runtime is not suited, or at least not responsible, to provide insights into SQL infrastructure. We have different telemetry for that, and it would only put additional pressure on the environment. In the private preview, for example, we were able to see that kind of the constant monitoring or getting X++ locking, SQL locking information through the X++ runtime is not always done in the most optimal way, which means you're actively contributing to more locking and unlocking on SQL. So this type of information is not what we're after here. Second one would be not using application insights for auditing purposes. This is also an important one. We see people, for example, using the database logging to gather some changes or updates to critical tables that they need to be providing information to auditors in order to prove who's able to change what. Well, don't bank on application insights to do this. And the simple reason is because of the third pattern to use is the design for cost efficiency. The setup of your application insights might be configured in a way where you're going to use sampling techniques, which we are getting to. But the sampling techniques might mean that you are not effectively catching every and each telemetry log that you're doing, right? Each event that you're logging. So that means you might only get like 50% of the actual telemetry. So if you're banking on measurements, you might not see each and every one of those in application insights. So it's not valid for auditing purposes, as you would not get the full picture. The third anti-pattern is when you use metrics specifically, use aggregation and avoid using variables in the metric name. It's a specific one to call out. Why? Because if you're using variables in the logging request, it actually considers the metric to be a different metric than the one before, right? So if you're logging the same, but with a variable name, you'll just get different metrics, and you'll also hit the cap of the maximum amount of metrics you can get. So that's something you can run into quickly. So with that, that were a few of the patterns and anti-patterns. Let's quickly look at some basic scenarios. For scenarios, I can start by saying we'll also be looking into capturing feedback from our partners, ISVs, customers, to understand, okay, what is the need for extra scenarios here. We can identify a few of those, but that's not necessarily 100% matching with what our customers are looking for, right? So that's definitely something we will try to do in the near future. But just to give you a few of those, so batch monitoring is something we can immediately think of, monitoring the amount of running times spread out across the time to understand, okay, maybe we're hitting some throttling issues, but we don't have actual telemetry that shows us how many of these running tasks we had at that point, right? So to kind of correlate these type of things, you get some insights on batch monitoring potentially. A second one, which I'm definitely sure is going to be one of the most used features, is the form usage. Like, what are my top 10 used forms? Is that aligning with what I thought it was, right? And what are the top 10 slowest forms? And let's have a look at why they are so slow, right? And try and improve performance or change the design of the form to allow for certain kind of filtering to start instead of loading all the data. So that's definitely one of the scenarios. And then lastly, so again, critical process insights, right? So we should aim for getting the throughput of the order process, for example, or how many invoices are we processing on average? Or another example, when we're posting general ledger journals, like at the end of the month, a lot of companies are posting a lot of invoices. Well, let's see how fast are we processing invoices here? Are we slower than last month's in comparison? So these type of details are the scenarios which we would like you guys to think about. Next up is cost saving. So there are some options which Lane already started to explain about how you can keep the cost in check for application insights. And it can be achieved in different ways. So the first one is a data volume cap. Like, I consider that to be the first level of defense against a high invoice, which means you basically say the daily volume is like 100 gigabytes. So that means as soon as you hit that limit, telemetry will not be added anymore, right? So then you're at the limit of what you can log for that period of time. The second level would be data retention and export of telemetry. So there's also retention policies that you can put on telemetry, and after that, some of the telemetry gets removed based on the date of the retention. And also here, export of telemetry is also possible. So if you want to keep the data even after the retention date, you're able to export your telemetry and offload it to a different storage. So that's the second level, I would say. Third level is what we call data sampling. And there's three ways of sampling. We don't need to go into all of the details, but if I pick one, like fixed rate sampling is we have a heavy batch load, for example, and for that process, it's just putting out a lot of telemetry, and we decide, hey, it's not needed that we get each and every event. Let's just go with 50%, for example, which means each call with a 50% chance it's going to be logged to telemetry, and otherwise it will be dropped, right? So there's three different techniques that you can do here. And for example, ingestion sampling, some of them are available to be configured right at the application inside service endpoint side. So for example, you see a screenshot there where we say, hey, you can, for the data sampling, let's use like 100%. This is where we say we're not doing any sampling. Also through the portal, you'll be able to see there's always links to the documentation that go into pretty much every detail there is in terms of sampling. And then custom metrics. The metrics store is what allows you to then you don't need to send each and every custom event or log a metric all the time. You can actually also build your own custom metrics, right? Like an average page request time, for example, is one of the default metrics in Application Insights, but you are not limited to default metrics. You can also create your own. And then once you have those, as I explained earlier, you can use aggregation and kind of get the metric, add a value to it, and then it recalculates. So that's more cost efficient also. So these are what we see as initial cost saving methods you can apply. Next part, extensibility. So with what comes out of the box, obviously you might want to put extra telemetry for custom processes you have in place, right? So you want to extend the solution and you want to be able to write some codes and make sure you hook into some of the events and log your own telemetry, right? So that is definitely something that is possible now through this feature. So think about additional insights again into your process flow. So to build, to get answers to those questions, you can provide custom code for that. The main entry point for logging your custom telemetry will be the Sys Global Telemetry class. That will handle the communication to Application Insights. It provides you with a client that will connect to App Insights, and then it provides you the methods like for logging an event, a trace, or a metric. So that's how you can go into your own code, and then in your own process, you can do callouts to these methods, and then they will automatically be added to Application Insights telemetry. That is depending, of course, on whether you have enabled the checkboxes specifically for custom events in the configuration UI that Lane showed in the beginning. And the last part I want to kind of explain in a few slides is, yeah, now we have configured and then we wrote some code to log telemetry. So there must be a whole bunch of telemetry already in our Application Insights. And Lane actually showed some of the default options we already have through the portal, through the Azure portal, and where we can look at the exceptions and these type of things. But as soon as you start logging your own telemetry and doing some more deep dive telemetry monitoring, you'll end up that you want to kind of view the raw storage, kind of the Application Insights data structure beneath it, and you'll want to write queries to actually pull that telemetry. And that's done by using the Custo query language. So there's a link here, and it'll also be in the references on what it is, and just to get yourself up to speed with the Custo query language to be able to query your telemetry. So captured telemetry then can be consumed by a variety of tools, right? Initially the Azure portal with the standard stuff, but if you want to start querying through the application portal, there is also a logs option, Application Insight logs, where you can run some of the queries. You can create workbooks that are acting as kind of dashboards to get you all of the information, and you can also connect the Azure Data Explorer to pull telemetry. So let's have a quick look at each of those options. So In the logs panel in Application Insights, you can get so on the left side, you see the actual data schema and structure of how it's stored. So we're mainly going to go for custom events and custom metrics in the event that you write your custom events and metrics to Application Insights, and exceptions and page views are also going to be like the main suspects in your queries. So yeah, by writing simple Gusto queries right in the editor in the Azure portal there, you can already get data and get some actionable insights. So this one is an example of just get me the counted page views that we see. So it's giving you immediately a pie chart of the page views that we did in the amount of time we're querying for. The second option is Azure Data Explorer, also a very good tool to query different kind of Gusto clusters, but our Application Insights instance also contains a Gusto cluster, right? So we can connect directly to it, and then from there you get similar experience, and then you can start querying the database of App Insights with your Gusto queries, right? The URL here looks like the following pattern, so where it's always the same and you need to replace your subscription ID, resource group, and then your app instance name with it. And then it'll be able to connect and you can run any queries that your heart might desire. Next up, workbooks. So running queries is good for doing some like root cause analysis of issues, bugs, or anything you want to get insights for. But eventually, if you want to get process insights and report it potentially to users or make it available in your organization, you want to be able to create flexible, rich visual reports. And workbooks is actually a good solution to that. There are also kind of advanced topics where you can connect a Power BI report directly to Gusto and whatnot, but I think at least the workbooks feature is worth mentioning here. And out of the box, you can immediately start building some of these. There are a few of those workbooks available, like a few, at least 20 to 30-ish are already available on different areas. Out of the box, so that's fine. And then you can easily start building your own workbooks. I've just included two of these here where we say analysis of page views, for example, that's available out of the box. You just put like the pages you want to track and the time range, and it gives you immediately like loading times or how many times these forms got triggered. And then the right side, that's also something I like to see often is like session timelines. If you have the session ID, which is in the telemetry available as one of the fields, then you can also go to this workbook and then capture or look at these sessions and drill down. And then if you click on one of the sessions for that user, you can see how many activities the users had. And this is showing you for one session what were the page views and also custom events. But then you get this complete trace where you see, okay, they opened the default dashboard, obviously, as a first one. Then they went into the data management workspace. From there, they clicked on this and this and this button, and you can kind of follow the pattern. This might be useful in cases where users are reporting a bug where they say, we get this error, but not all the time, right? And then it turns out it only happens when they are coming from a specific form and take a specific path, which makes the form do a filter that it otherwise would not do. So that's a part of what is already available out of the box. So with that, that also concludes the consuming part of how you can actually look at your telemetry. And I think next up we are at the end of what we wanted to show. So one thing we wanted to still mention is in the call to action. So for customers who had the private preview framework installed, you'll have to remove that package from your environments by following the steps we outlined through that link on the MS Learn pages. Then you can enable the monitoring and telemetry feature as in a way that Lane described in the beginning, and then start configuring and off you go. We also included a small page with a few of the most kind of important resources you might find on this, so please have a look at that documentation. And with that, I would open it up for Q&A.
Thanks, Kenny. Hello, everyone. This is Aman Nain. So we have got quite a busy Q&A session going for this tech talk. So thank you for that. We have been trying to answer the chat as the tech talk has been progressing. I want to call out few questions that have come up repeatedly. I think one thing that people have been interested to ask is about the support for infrastructure monitoring. Well, the short answer is the feature currently is only looking at X++ telemetry, and infrastructure monitoring is something as a SaaS solution you should not be worrying about. So that's the short answer. The currently solution won't be giving you that kind of insights. LCS page health metrics is still the place to go for that. Another question asked was on more documentation on more scenarios that customers and partners can implement. So for that as well, we are working on adding more examples to the docs articles. We will also be working on more tech talks. So please watch out for those. And if you think you have any unique scenarios you want to share that you think are very important, please, we will share our emails. You can respond to us. Another similar question was support for custom events, custom metrics. So again, enhancements are coming. We are adding more functions, more methods to the SIS global classes. So please watch out for those as well. I think another top question was impact on performance. Again, the answer given was that the pipeline is utilizing .NET garbage collection, so it's not really hooking up into FNO X++ runtime, so should not have any impact on performance. Yeah. What else? Another question. Yes. Anybody would like to add? Kenny, Glenn?
For me, Aman, the one question that does kind of draw my attention is the one for the custom properties in Telemetry sent to App Insights. In the demo, you could see that Lane already used the batch job ID and the kind of the workload interactive versus batch. Those three, right? The company, the batch job, and the workload type are always included in every call, right? That's already baked in. There will be support indeed for additional custom property logging, which is going to be added to the SIS Global Telemetry indeed. We don't have a clear ETA yet, but it's already kind of the bits are already in place, and it's going to follow a release schedule now. I think PU 57 was potentially the one it ends up with, but we will update as soon as we have accurate information for that.
Thank you, Kenny, and that will open up so many more custom opportunities for our customers and partners to implement.
Absolutely.
Another question was how we can do multiple environments, sending telemetry to one instance of App Insights, or in fact multiple apps like Logic apps or other Azure apps sending insights to application insights one instance. So I think the short answer is it really depends on your creativity. How you can, I guess the bottom line is how you can correlate events across different apps for an end-to-end scenarios, and if you can stitch them together in a clear logical way and spot what's coming from where, then definitely you can use one instance of App Insights. But I think for production scenarios, I think recommendation would be to keep it separate. Yeah.
Yeah, and along those lines, there was a question in the chat that is an integral part of the feature, which is in the module parameter for monitoring and telemetry where you actually set this up. We allow you to specify multiple different environments at once in the same database, right? And so if you're kind of before you go live, you're working with a gold type environment, you can store all of your different sandbox and eventual production environment configs in your gold instance, right? So that's just there for each UAT cycle that you go through and your eventual go live. If you're already live, your environment of truth, so to speak, is your production environment. You can store your app insights for prod and your app insights for your UAT sandbox and your app insights config for your dev environments in there as well, so that when you copy prod to sandbox or sandbox 1 to sandbox 2, the system will be smart enough to automatically fail over to a different app insight endpoint. So that way there's no risk of you sending telemetry from sandbox or from a developer to your production app insight instance, right? So we built the system to be smart enough with environment copy, database refresh in mind. So feel free to just get all of those configs in there that you wish. And if your database ends up being copied to a developer environment or something that wasn't configured, then the system just doesn't send telemetry anywhere, right? So, but just wanted to raise that because that was a great question, and I don't think we really highlighted that during the demo.
Yeah, no, and that's a great solution as well to this persistence problem of copying databases, and then now you have to worry about what's going to happen with telemetry or with configurations not getting copied or firing the wrong way. So I think that's a great solution. Looking at more questions from security point of view, one question came up again and again a few times was support for key vault. So yes, we will be very soon adding support for having your own key vault storing the keys.
Aman, it's also two
Yes.
things, right? So one is the key vault support, that's definitely needed and will be coming. And the second part, I'm not sure if it was already asked before, will be the support for connection strings versus a application ID, right? A key ID. So that's also going to
key.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So we will be moving away from instrumentation key and adding support for connection strings as well. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
In terms of performance, how the latency, how soon the insights are available, I think the answer was given. It's very quick, within few seconds. The solution is using App Insights.NET SDK. So it's using HTTPS, so not using any other framework, not utilizing anything which does not have a good performance. So performance latency should not be a concern as well. Any other points? I'm just quickly looking at the Q&A.
I saw one from Chris also where he mentioned, could you please encourage other platform feature teams to use the LCS environment ID and environment type mapping table? Maybe make it a system level parameter table with an API. Would love a static is production method. To that point, I do believe so. What we are doing is we are also discussing with other app teams to go through the monitoring and telemetry solution, which then means they are using the setup tables for the environment ID. Let's see if that entirely answered his question. And then using that enum, you would know it's a production. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think if I hear the question correctly, there will be support for environment ID very soon, so you can differentiate between different environments. So you know where that telemetry is coming from.
Thanks so much, everyone. The feedback has just been tremendous. Keep your questions coming. I see a few more coming in the chat, but otherwise, any other closing comments, Kenny, Aman?
There's one from me, again, also from Chris, as he was asking the Yammer Insight feedback channel. I see you reply to it. I do want to make a shout out to everyone to follow that link. Any input in terms of what processes are you looking for? Because we're also working with app teams to have them like build additional out of the box telemetry, right, for this feature. So that would definitely be a very good link to provide all your feedback there. Greatly appreciated.
And I have provided my email ID. Guys, Kenny, Lane, if you want to provide your email IDs as well for people to provide feedback. How long are the insights available? I think it really depends. So that's where the creativity part comes in, right? We are enabling the platform, but how you combine multiple apps, how you play with app insights, how you take this data to, as Kenny was showing, to things like log analytics or data explorer, other tools in Azure. It's really up to your imagination, how much data you want to store, how long you want to store. There are many ways to control.
Okay, David, I think we are also through with questions.
All right. Well, thank you, Lane, Aman, and Kenny for a great presentation today. I have posted a link to a short survey in the Q&A panel, and we'd like your feedback on today's session and hear what you'd like to see in future events. Thank you for your participation. As a reminder, the recording of today's session will be available on the TechTalks Community Dynamics page in the coming weeks. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenters and audience for joining us today.